April 26, 1986, 1:23 a.m. Soviet nuclear engineers begin a routine safety test at Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant. Within 40 seconds, reactor number 4 explodes with the force of 500 atomic bombs. A pillar of radioactive fire shoots 1,000 feet into the night sky. The radiation released is 400 times greater than Hiroshima. Within hours, thousands are dying. Within days, an entire region is dead. This is the story of how a simple test became the worst nuclear disaster in human history. But before we understand what happened, ask yourself this: what would you do if your government ordered you into a radiation zone knowing you'd die within weeks? The firefighters and plant workers at Chernobyl faced exactly that choice. Some refused, most obeyed. Their sacrifice saved millions of lives, but the cost was unimaginable. If you want to understand history's most catastrophic moments, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We upload every Tuesday and Saturday. Now, let's go back to the Soviet Union, 1986, where corner cutting and secrecy were about to kill thousands. Chernobyl wasn't just any nuclear plant. It used RBMK reactors, a Soviet design with a fatal flaw. Unlike Western reactors, RBMK reactors become more unstable at low power. The Soviet engineers knew this. But communist pride demanded they use Soviet technology, not Western designs. The reactor also lacked a containment building. Western reactors have massive concrete domes to contain radiation if something goes wrong. Chernobyl had a simple roof. When disaster struck, nothing stood between the reactor core and the atmosphere. The explosion happened during a safety test. Ironic, isn't it? Engineers wanted to see if the reactor could survive a power failure. The test required reducing the reactor to 25% power. But the operators made a mistake. Power dropped to 1%, nearly shutting down. This triggered the reactor's fatal flaw. At low power, RBMK reactors become unpredictable. The operators should have stopped the test immediately. Instead, they violated safety protocols. They disabled emergency systems. They removed too many control rods. They wanted to complete the test to meet their deadline. Soviet bureaucracy valued schedules over safety. At 1:23 a.m., they began the test. Power started rising, slowly at first, then faster. Within 20 seconds, the reactor was at 100 times normal power. The operators hit the emergency shutdown button. The control rods began lowering into the reactor to stop the reaction. But there was another design flaw. The tips of the control rods were made of graphite, which briefly increases reactivity before decreasing it. For 5 seconds, the reactor power surged even higher. The fuel rods began exploding. At 1:23 and 40 seconds, the reactor core exploded. 2 explosions, actually. The first was a steam explosion as superheated coolant flashed to vapor. The second was possibly a nuclear explosion as the reactor briefly went supercritical. The 1,000-ton reactor lid was blown off like a bottle cap. A pillar of radioactive fire and debris shot into the sky. The graphite core caught fire, burning at over 3,000 degrees. Radioactive smoke poured into the atmosphere. The wind carried it across Europe. Within hours, radiation detectors in Sweden, over 700 miles away, started alarming. Firefighters arrived within minutes. They had no idea what they were fighting. Nobody told them it was a nuclear fire. They climbed onto the reactor building roof to fight the flames. The radiation there was 20,000 roentgens per hour. A lethal dose is 500 roentgens total. These men received fatal doses in minutes. Their skin began burning. Their faces swelled. But they kept fighting the fire for 5 hours. 28 of them died within weeks. Their bodies were so radioactive they were buried in lead coffins encased in concrete. The Soviet government tried to hide the disaster. For 36 hours, they told residents nothing. People went to work. Children played outside. Radiation rained down on them. Finally, they announced an evacuation. 50,000 people in the nearby city of Pripyat had 20 minutes to pack. They were told they'd return in 3 days. They never did. The city remains abandoned today, buildings slowly crumbling. An amusement park that was supposed to open days after the disaster stands frozen in time, rusting away. Containing the disaster required an army. Over 600,000 men, called Liquidators, were sent into the radiation zone. Their mission: entomb the destroyed reactor in concrete before more radiation escaped. Some cleared radioactive debris from the roof by hand. Robots couldn't function in the extreme radiation. The men worked in 90-second shifts. Any longer and they'd receive a fatal dose. They ran onto the roof, shoveled debris into the reactor hole, and ran back. Many received doses of 400 Roentgens in those 90 seconds. Thousands died within years. Tens of thousands developed cancers. They built a concrete tomb around the reactor, called the sarcophagus. It took 6 months and used 400,000 cubic meters of concrete. But it was constructed hastily by dying men. It leaked. Rain seeped in. The radioactive core remains inside, still deadly. In 2016, they built a new containment structure, a massive arch weighing 36,000 tons. It's designed to last 100 years, but the core inside will remain radioactive for 20,000 years. How many died? Nobody knows. The Soviet Union admitted 31 immediate deaths. The real number is vastly higher. The World Health Organization estimates 4,000 cancer deaths from radiation exposure. Other studies suggest 60,000 or more. Entire villages were abandoned. Forests died, turning red from radiation. The area is called the Red Forest now. Soil there is contaminated for centuries. Animals returned and mutated. Some thrive in the absence of humans, but many have genetic abnormalities. Chernobyl happened because of Soviet secrecy, corner-cutting, and pride. The reactor had known design flaws that were hidden from operators. Safety protocols were ignored to meet deadlines. When the disaster occurred, the government prioritized its image over public safety. They delayed evacuation, they censored information, they sent men to die without telling them the truth. Each decision, each lie, each moment of bureaucratic cowardice compounded into catastrophe. Chernobyl changed the world. Nuclear power expansion halted globally. Countries shut down reactors. Safety protocols were completely revised. The Soviet Union's credibility was shattered. Many historians believe Chernobyl accelerated the collapse of the USSR. The government's lies were exposed. People realized their leaders valued the system more than human lives. 5 years later, the Soviet Union dissolved. The Chernobyl exclusion zone remains, a 1,000 square mile radioactive wasteland. Radiation levels have dropped, but it's still dangerous. Tours now run through Pripyat. Visitors walk through abandoned schools, hospitals, homes. Nature has reclaimed the city. Trees grow through buildings. Wolves roam the streets. It's beautiful and horrifying. A monument to human hubris. Chernobyl reminds us that secrecy kills, that cutting corners catches up with you, that technology without safety is a weapon. Thousands died because engineers violated protocols, because bureaucrats prioritized schedules, because a government valued its image over truth. History struck at 1:23 a.m. on April 26, 1986. And the world learned that nuclear power demands absolute respect. If this story made you think about how small decisions lead to massive disasters, hit that like button. Subscribe for more untold stories of when history strikes. What disaster should we cover next? Pompeii? The Black Death? The Hindenburg? Comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.